Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. David Thomas, manager for Spring Garden Records, and welcome to Music Industry Today, a discussion and Q&A we're hosting with a live studio audience at Community College of Philadelphia, CCP TV, Channel 53. Our guests today are two of my amazing friends, the illustrious Miss Ruth Naomi Floyd and the maestro, Mr. Jamar Jones. So tell us a little bit about yourselves, both of you. Ladies first.
Well, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I am a vocalist, composer, educator, photographer, and justice worker. And I am the inaugural artist in residence at Community College of Philadelphia.
That's right, Spring Garden Records.
Yes.
That's our inaugural artist in residence.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Jamar Jones, as he already said. I'm from Philadelphia. I am also a pianist. I'm a professor. I'm a composer. I'm a pastor, too, executive pastor in Alabama. So I'm like a Jamaican. I got 10,000 jobs. So, however you want to look at it. But my roots are here in music, in Philadelphia here, where I'm from. And I've had the opportunity to work with a whole host of people from Philadelphia, all the Philadelphia greats, and then outside of Philadelphia, I worked in film, I worked in television, I composed for Young and the Restless, I've worked with different artists, Patti LaBelle, Jill Scott, you name it, goes on and on and on. So that's me.
Yeah. So they were being very humble, both of them, but I'm glad they were because we're on a tight timeline. So I definitely also want to underscore the fact that these are two of my most amazing friends and partners in the work that we do here. So happy to be here with both of you today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful to be
Yes.
here.
So we have a few questions, all right? Nothing deep, psych, kind of deep. But I'm going to start with both of you. Jamar, we'll let you start with this one. If you had to describe today's music industry in 3 words or less, what would you say?
And 3, the Love Boat.
Now why? Maybe we should have put that in there too. Now we need to know why you would say that.
It's exciting and new things happening all the time. So I know our audience, y'all might be too young for the Love Boat because I was a kid when it was on, but it's something exciting and new. That was a part of the song, and I think the music industry is full of new, exciting opportunities.
Wow.
And as time goes on and as technology expands, we're seeing those opportunities expand and expand and expand and expand.
Wow. That's deep. That's the pastor in you. That's
Probably.
Right. That's right, probably. Yes. Ruth, your 3 words.
I
or
would
less.
say creative, freedom, and binding.
Now you definitely have to tell us more.
Well, it's a place where creativity can happen, and also artistry. My hope is that it'll be a little bit more of artistry too as we go forward towards 2024. Freedom, because now there's not as many, the lines are blurred as they were previously. So there's even from genre, crossing the lines and merging genres. And then also there's that freedom of you don't have at least that tight, in some ways oppressive,
That's good.
connection with a label. And so there's freedom for independent grassroots artists to really get their work out, but yet it's still binding. And when I say binding, you just follow the money.
You're all right. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Follow the money. That's a good point. So I love the fact that you used the term oppressive because I think it also provides meaning and girth to the work, right? It's not just something audible, but there's meaning and heart to music and the work that we do as individuals in the music industry. So, good stuff. So now that we're talking about, again, the opposite of oppression, you both are independent artists, right?
Yeah.
In many instances, right? So independent labels and artists accounted for 43% of industry market share globally in 2021, which is significant. Do you think we are seeing a monumental shift in the industry with independent artists and labels having more influence on how the industry operates? Or is this just a byproduct of the democratization of how music is distributed and new artists are discovered? That's deep.
That's a deep question.
Ain't it? Don't ask me to repeat it, please.
or if I have to jump in the waters, so to speak, I think that Spotify has somewhere around in the neighborhood of 40,000 pieces of music being released every day. Now think about that. It's a lot of music, and because that sheer volume, the digitization of the music industry has allowed independent artists to flourish. Now, what it also has done is it's sort of kind of like clouded. It's made the waters cloudy too, as well, because we don't necessarily have. This is just my opinion, and if you go you can go through Spotify and you can seek and you can search for a lot of good types of music, but you're gonna come across a lot of stuff that's just of a lower quality. And one of the things that the record label system did a good job of doing is actually maintaining a threshold for quality. You got to think about this. Artist development, making sure artists were developed, to be able to put out valuable music, making sure that records were mixed well and they were mastered well. Now, this has nothing to do with whether you like the art itself, but there was a quality standard. And those quality standards in many ways have been challenged with the amount of music. And then you look at this new role that artificial intelligence is bringing into the music business too as well. Whether that's helping to make music, whether it's helping to write songs, that's kind of complicating everything. So we just have like this rush. It's content, because everything is content, and I'll say this one last thing. This is interesting because like the social media platforms are like, we're monetizing a lot of people for their content, but if like new rules are coming and are being unleashed to slow down the monetization because they figure people have figured it out. Yeah, I can just, I can either use some artificial intelligence or some type of intelligent software and just keep creating, and then I get an audience, and then before you know it, but then there's no heart in much of it though. For me, playing the piano, growing up without my father, that comes out of my artistry. That comes out of how I communicate as a musician. Computers can't communicate that.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, and I enjoyed our discussion earlier that, like you said, computers can't, communicate that grief. They can't communicate that lament or that rage or that joy or that love. And so that human element is missed. And I think, there's good and bad, but I think where you're going at the end of the day, for a vocalist, you want them to stand flat-foot and sing without all the tricks and the things. Can you do that? I remember when I went in France, someone gifted me an hour lesson with the top European vocalist.
Wow.
And his number one, and you had to audition to even get into a studio. And what he wanted to know is he wanted me to sing the alphabet ridiculously slow. And what he could tell was, does she have a good voice? Does she have technique? Does she have breath? Does she have pitch? Does she have all these things? And then he would take, he took me in. And so I think at the end of the day, we long for that purity of those that have dedicated themselves to learning the craft and to presenting it. And computers and AI and artificial intelligence and all those things can't bring about that rawness. We talked about like the blues note, hip hop, those in between notes. You can't do it. It's not sharp, it's not flat. It's literally in between. I say a blues singer, there's people who sing the blues, but a blues singer can sing those in between notes. They know how to vocalize around it. They can squall, they can bring that grittiness to it. And so, that's just not possible. And I think there's a sense also with that is that there's more thievery going on right now. I think the record labels were able to protect the artists and from their work in some ways, and now there's more, I'll snatch that, change one chord, and it's really,
It depends on who you talk to now.
Yeah.
Because Prince would probably disagree with us if he was alive.
If it was still
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. But then there's also that imitation too. So you have someone who may not respect the culture, may not know the history of the culture, but is snatching things from them and imitating it And so, yeah, there's pros and cons as with anything.
Yeah. And I think that latter part, right, around things in the culture and things in the industry being, I'll use borrowed, right? Borrowed and reappropriated, has been what we've seen in our culture, particularly as it relates to music. So it's just important for us to understand that very often newer generations don't have the same historical context of some of the things that we're talking about. And I'm not minimizing what our newer generations know, but very often our systems have changed and our communication tools have changed to the point that we don't even focus on or highlight some of the shoulders upon which we stand for our newer generation, so they don't know some of those things. And I think it's our job to make sure that they do. Right.
Yeah, I was thinking of, like, when I said binding, I was thinking particularly of Prince. You know, he was bound, and so then there's that freedom and that bound and it's different, but it still exists in different ways. Wow. Yeah.
He was bound, but then he wasn't.
Well, he made himself unbound.
You know what I started thinking about? In Adore.
Yeah.
If you know, to the end of time. It's a sitar in that song. Yeah. That's just a strange instrument. Yeah. Like, you got this Middle Eastern instrument in the middle of this Prince song, which I'm just like, you know. So he had he was bound, but he was free. He was free, but he was bound all at the same time.
And he revolutionized what it meant to be free, which I love him forever for.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I know we're not supposed to be doing all this riffing, but I got to stay on that point because I think Prince was an artist that was too complex for some ears, right? So, and I'm going to talk about my parents. My mom and dad were like, what are you listening to? Like, this makes no sense whatsoever, right? But even though I couldn't play one instrument, I was enthralled by everything that I heard in a Prince album or a Prince song, because it was so layered and so musical. Like, it was actually a theatrical performance very often.
I think every
organic.
Yes, very organic, right.
I think every generation, though, to a generation, say a parent to a child, and even us as parents, you know, with children, or as educators with students, we all think the same thing, you know, because about the next generation's music,
right?
You know, because if you think about hip hop was like boom bap, that's a bunch of noise. You know, hip hop was actually beautiful art being made though, too.
Yeah.
You know, once you look at it over time, but now we got mumble rap. Like, I'm like, what did it say? Like, and my kids are listening to it. What? Like, I don't, and this is my jam. I'm like, I don't even, I don't understand what it's saying.
Jam, right?
Like, you understand?
Right.
Like,
what is the message, right?
Yeah, you know, what is the message? Right. You know, but they get something out of it. I don't understand it, you know, and I think about music, when you look at music history, you had people that came along the way. Charlie Parker, he did the Bird Call. Oh, this is it's different.
Right.
You got Thelonious Monk. Like, he just had his literal own voice on the piano.
And patterns.
Yeah, and patterns.
Composing and playing,
Nina Simone actually really wasn't a singer.
Correct. Right.
However, she's probably the most sampled jazz artist of anybody that we know, you know, and you look at that, and then I think about sampling. This is only because I'm a nerd. I'm going to go back to Mozart and Beethoven. If you listen to their piano sonatas, you got to go check it. The melody in the second movement of both of their C minor piano sonatas is exactly the same. Mozart's older than Beethoven. That means Beethoven sampled Mozart. All right. Mozart was dead when that came out. It's the same exact melody, though. It's a very interesting point. You know, and then Beethoven really wanted to be, like, he wanted to respect, he really wanted to be respected, but then Rossini comes behind Beethoven, and Rossini is like, to Beethoven, is like this commercial wonder. Like, that's corny, that's not music, because he focused on opera. But that would be no different than a hip hop artist like KRS-One thinking that, all right, or what we call it, rap, conscious rap is more important than what Jay-Z does.
Right.
You know, when Jay-Z was doing, you know, his stuff in late 90s, early 2000s, he's making club music. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, so from generation to generation, we always have this argument and that tension.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, about, you know, but then at the same time, you ain't nothing but a hound dog is coming to my head right now, too. Because you talked about stealing.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
And we know Elvis kind of took that
Yes.
from
Yep.
Mama, Big Mama Thornton.
Yeah,
Right.
you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Cultural, thievery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cultural thievery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
You're so eloquent.
I want to call it something.
I know. That's good stuff. So I think we laid the groundwork for this next question and probably answer some of it, but within the context of the next question. A lot has changed in the music industry over the last 20 years. What do you both see as the most advantageous aspects of this progression? And what do you find to be the most difficult areas for new artists, producers, and songwriters to navigate today?
Should I start?
Of course.
Go for it.
Okay, in terms of what has changed, technology has evolved at probably a much faster pace, just say for music making, than it probably did in the previous, 40 years before the last 20 years. So you got technology, the computer, of course, the ease of making music, the ease of putting out music that has kind of fast-tracked everything. And of course, the challenges that has presented to, music makers, producers, artists, and songwriters is really making money. The monetization structures have changed because now we spend a majority of our time with streaming. It used to be that we could just sell a CD, widgets,
Yep.
and because you could sell something physically, you could count on that money from that thing.
Right.
You put it in your car. You can't put streams in your trunk and sell them to people. And now you got to get like billions of streams to get any meaningful income. And I remember when the streaming thing first kind of started, and I have songs I wrote for Usher. Like, I'm looking at hundreds of thousands and millions of streams, and you see a check for like, $11. And maybe, you got 10 million streams, $100. Like, I'm like, what? I'm like, if that was on the radio, you'd be a billionaire.
Exactly.
Like, no. But that has kind of, the internet, really, hyperscalability is good for us, but it also has challenged us in many ways. And in some ways, it's a generational challenge, and in other ways, maybe not. For us traditionally minded, you make a record. I read an article the other day that was talking about the album and the depth of the album.
Yes. Yeah.
Where artists are not really focusing on making
Bodies
complete
of work,
bodies
right.
of work.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that as a creative, because I feel like it's important for you to understand a story. A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to just...
Take me on the journey.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but is that our age?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's a great point.
Because
you can take a person on a journey in a song, right? But
you're going to listen to it over
right,
and over
and over again, right?
Because Michael Jackson never actually had a succinct album, if you think about it. He had a whole bunch of hits. They wasn't like they were just like, okay, this was a beginning, middle, and end. It was like, yo, Billie Jean to Beat It. Like, I'm bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
Like, black or white. Like, we just all over the map. And that was amazing.
Right.
Because we enjoy that. But, that's the challenge. That's one of the challenges right now.
Right. And you miss the liner notes. You miss the packaging. You miss the whole thing. You miss the artwork. You miss who's playing what instrument. When I hear it, I'm like, I want to know who's on sax, who's on key.
It's
that's
hard
just
to
not
find
there.
now.
Yeah. But mostly the comprehensive statement. When you look at, you look at Train, I want that whole stream of consciousness in his albums, and it's just not there now. And I was one of those who was like, I will not give in to Spotify and all those until it hurts me. Well, it's hurting me now, so now I yield, I yield. But yeah, you lose that. I think one of the things is it does give independent artists at least a chance at a table, or more importantly, to create their own table. But I also think now, for financially, it's about merch. It's just about people go to shows and they buy the merch. It's whatever piece of that artist they can. So that's why we all watch certain artists and see what they're doing in their homes and see what they're doing. So there's this, there's not that distance any longer. To be successful, you got to show a picture of you and your daughter going shopping, and that's why I really love what Lisa Fisher did. She was saying after she won the Grammy, tied with Patti LaBelle, she was just like, I want to do my own voice. I don't want to be bound to this. And she walked away from it, and still, she's one of the few who walked away, but still, when you think of one of the greatest voices in the last 20, I mean, look her up, Lisa Fisher, beast. But I love that, and she started singing with Rolling Stones and backup and all these things until she has her own body of music where she can, so that freedom of there. So I think, there's pros and cons with it.
Wow, that's true. Gives us a lot to think about.
It's a lot.
Right, So one of the biggest talking points of 2023 has been the proliferation of AI-generated content, as we talked about, be it in art, software, customer service, and countless other fields, right? How do you think AI will alter the music industry, and do you see any positive uses of AI changing how you personally work or in your creative process?
Well, I'm not going to take this question, but I'm not deflecting. I really enjoyed our conversation before where we were talking about AI, and I would love for you to share. And I'm not deflecting. I can answer if you want, but you really just summed up all that I was thinking of. So they don't need to hear me talk on this.
Okay. AI does have pros and cons to it. I want to start with the most basic challenge to artistry is communicating emotion. That's what AI cannot do. All right, and depending on
you said that's the most challenging part about an artist.
No, the most challenging thing for
AI to duplicate.
To duplicate.
Right.
It's communicating the emotion. So if I leave it to a computer to make something up for me, and I just stop there. Well, what is it? Yes. Now you can just take that and you can monetize it, because there's a whole list of tools that are all AI centric now, from making the music to now marketing the music to distributing the music, that it would never have touched a human hand. Think about that. So if a kid just sits in a room, not necessarily a kid, a person, let's just say if a person sits in a room and tells the AI software, give me a Lucky Day beat, with a Jay-Z rhyme. It's software that can do that. All right. Then it gives you that, and then let me get some marketing copy and let me market this as my thing. Well, I mean, there's no authenticity there, and I think this is when it comes from a purist perspective from my standpoint. Now, on the other side of it, though, I think from a creative, AI can be a great tool in the hands of the educated listener, and of the educated musician, So we need education, because this is the other thing about AI. From what I've experienced, you got to know how to articulate something to the computer to get meaningful feedback. Not just, I need a song.
Good in, good out.
Exactly, what you put in, we were taught that, as kids. The computer is dumb. What you put in it is what it's going to give you back. It's not just going to give you back. So with that in mind, a colleague of mine, who was a dean down there at University of Texas, he said this to me the other day that I think was significant. He said, the same way the calculator revolutionized the work for a white collar work, he says AI is going to do the same thing in this generation. He says it's not going to replace. You still have to take calculus, and you still got to understand what it is you're calculating. However, it becomes a tool to help speed up time. And that's where I think the AI will it'll make competition more fierce, because now you can speed up processes, And I'll say some good uses of AI. I'm not sure whether Professor Geisinger would agree with this, but some good uses of AI would be when it comes into like really mixing your music, at least getting you started. Now I have software on my computer when I work on music, and I can work much faster now because I can at least apply templates that will get my mix closer to, it won't mix it for me, but it'll get me there much faster. So now I'm not spending, as opposed to spending 8 hours trying to figure out where that snare belongs, I actually can do it in 5 minutes. Ain't that amazing? Like, yeah, so now time, it's sped up time. Now, what does that do? That's actually gonna make me more competitive, because then if I'm the producer, that I can turn around stuff in 2 seconds. So years ago, this is a real story, because this is technology centric, and hopefully AI won't start arranging orchestras. We do.
Don't say it too loud.
I know, right? Years ago, I started doing orchestrations in the computer, in the box. First record I did was with some producers. One is my cousin Dre and Vidal from Philadelphia for Fantasia. It was a song called Nominate You. I think that was like 2005. All right, that was the first R&B record that was on a major R&B record that I did this all in the box computer arrangement. And from there, people just started calling me to do them. Because what was happening is Napster and all that other stuff that was going on.
Napster.
Everybody was concerned about records. Oh, we can't sell records. We can't sell records. We're not making no money. And Vidal called me. He said, "Hey man, you remember that thing you used to do when we was kids? Like the strings in the computer. I mean, in the keyboard." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "You think you can do this?" He's like, well, he talks like this. You think you can do this on this
I hope he watches.
Record?
Bye. He doing you.
I was like, yeah. So he sent it to me. I did it, and then I started work. I mean, we did so many records. Like, Jill Scott's, if you've heard Jill Scott's song, My Love is Deeper and Higher. That was on a record, I think, 2007 or whenever. But there's an orchestra on there. You should go listen to it, because that's all in the box. It was a long time before anybody knew that wasn't real. Like, and as a result, it turned over all these other opportunities. So I'm working on this record, working on that record. It was just like between Chris Brown and Erica Campbell and Mary, and it was just going on and on and on and on and on, and working with Adam and all of this stuff. So it was the technology allowed me to be more efficient. That's what the thing I want to point out. And then in times where I need to turn something over and have it transcribed, I can have a real orchestra go do that. But because of that, I got so good at it in a season when I had time to really, really do it, that's all I did. I would send people the mock-up, and they'd say, "Oh man, I'm just using the mock-up." I can't tell you that, yeah. I mean, a certain producers I work with, I would just send them the MP3s to listen to, and the MP3s was on the record.
He did the work.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I never sent you the files. Like, can I send you the real files? Like,
wow.
Said, oh no, that was fine. Like,
That was fine.
so you get what I'm saying? Like,
You mean this wasn't the file?
I'm like, this is weird.
Hilarious.
Okay. But the technology, and that's what I think AI can help us from a technology standpoint. It becomes it should be more treated like an assistant.
Right.
And you need to know what to put in it, which is why you got to learn your music theory. You got to learn, musical intelligence, so that way you're communicating back and forth with the computer. Like, if you don't know the difference between like C minor and C major, and like, let's just say we get to the place where AI feels auto-tune, and you're telling the computer to just tune this for me, like, and suppose it has a question. Well, I see a C minor scale, but I see a major third. Well, you got to know what that interval is. I'm just using that as an extreme example. Or you got to know the difference between a tom and a horn, because there might be timbres that might sound remotely close, but they're not the same. Or a tom and a kunga. A tom and a kunga. They make tones, but they're not the same things. It's completely different. And you got to be able to know those types of things. So.
That's listen. Y'all just schooled me, because I don't know the difference between the two. We'll talk about that.
Yes, you do.
Do I?
You do.
One is round, one is
Right.
Anyway,
Dr. Thomas.
I know, sorry,
Dr. Thomas.
All right, so moving, I guess, from some of the AI stuff, right? You're both prolific live performers. Do you approach playing live music differently from your record process or recording process in the studio? And do you feel as though you have more freedom to try out different things when you're live versus in the studio? Just talk to us a little bit about which one may potentially bind you more than the others. I'll use your term.
Yeah, I think, you know, I love live performance. You know, for me, a job, and as musicians, our job is to tell the story, whether we're singing or writing, composing it or playing it, right? You want to connect with another human being. You want that music to be healing. You want them to remember that. So I'm always have, as you do, I'm sure, is a posture of gratefulness of that people of coming to hear what I have to offer. And I do a fair amount of my performances abroad. And for years there was a vast difference. In the United States it was like, is Ruth going to hit that high note? Is she going to do that gliss? Is she going to do this? And in across the pond it was more like, what is Ruth or Jamar going to share with us? They didn't really care whether you hit the high note or not. What are you going to share? That's changing and has been changed. And so there's more of that entertainment. So I feel freedom. I mean, I'm communicating 90% of the time in jazz, which is a conversation. So I'm always, you know, bouncing off and entering a communication and a conversation with my quartet, which is my key ensemble. In the studio, there's freedom there because you can take, you know, different type of liberties, but it's also binding. You have the clock. You have only certain amount of times before it gets old, so you can't run 2 and 3 and 4 takes, you know, because then you lose that impulse, particularly in jazz when you're soloing and doing all these things. So yeah, I think there's freedom and binding in each. But for me, I approach it very differently, the live performance than the record. And I love what I think it was Betty Carter said, I'm not sure, but I think it was she said, listen, and this freed me because I used to go into recording I didn't have a lot of money, so we only had 1 or 2 takes and we did them back to back, and whichever one was the best, we didn't even have the time to listen back. We're like, if we didn't have any major faults, you know. So yeah, and then later like, we should have done another take. No, but she said, you know, approach recording as this is what the best you could do this day. Yesterday could have been much better. Tomorrow could be much worse. And so I've taken that, especially since I record live. It's with the band. It's with, you know, the band doesn't play and I come in and overdub. We're all hitting at the same time. It's this like, this is the best we have to give today. And that was really freeing for me with recording. And so I have more freedom of that's okay. And then also with jazz, you know, as Miles says, it's the next note that confirms whether it was an error or a mistake. So you have another chance. That's good theology.
It is. Yeah.
You know, you have another, you have another chance to confirm it. And I think there's a story of where Miles Day was sitting down with a interviewer and he was like, oh, this is brilliant, and you know, Miles was like, oh man, that's just where I made a mistake and immediately corrected it, you know. So it's just this sense of, particularly with jazz, you have that openness and that opportunity to do that. But yeah, I love both. I love both, but I am deeply grateful with all the music that's out there that someone wants to come and say, what does Ruth have to offer? I want to hear her composition. I hear what she wants to say. I value her, and so there's not this air of cockiness or, you know, diva-ness. There's this sense, and I think those that have consistently followed me for almost 30 years get that sense of that. There's this sense of, if anything I sing, anything I write can help you and inspire you or help you along the way, then I've done my job.
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
And you know, the one thing that you also miss in the studio is the audience and that interaction with you know, the audience, which when you just explained all of that, clearly your interaction with those that you minister to, sing to, engage with, enhances the way you deliver your gift.
Yes,
Right? You
yes.
miss that in the studio.
Yeah.
I mean, typically. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But you know, I have probably a philosophy that has been built upon a very simple construct. Whether I'm in a studio or whether I'm live, whatever's coming out of my musical mouth or my mouth, you know, can this thing be played 1,000 times? You know, so with that in mind, I approach my studio recording, even when making hip hop, R&B music, pop, whatever it is I'm playing. I believe this genuinely. The first thing that comes out of your space is the most authentic.
Yeah.
And I've worked over years
good,
and
yeah.
years and years to get myself to the place where I'm comfortable going with the first thing. It's not that I'm rushing, and it's not that I'm just you know, throwing things out there. I understand that about authenticity, and when it comes to playing live, well, you only get one chance anyway.
Right.
So like, let me make sure I'm saying what it is I want to say. You know, and just like that Miles statement, which is profound. Yeah, sometimes you don't. Yeah, you land in a place, oh, I didn't mean to go there, but then you get to self-correct it. And then sometimes those self-corrections end up becoming, wow, that was incredible.
Right.
How did that happen?
Right.
You know, I did a double piano record with a friend of mine, Cornell Gaskins, who is an amazing pianist. He's like Art Tatum, reincarnated, Oscar Peterson.
My Lord.
We sat down without planning, and we recorded a record called Sunday Morning at the Piano. We didn't plan. We just sat at two pianos. I pressed record and called the song, and we just played it. Little did we know, like, that record would resonate with so many different types of people. It was like one of those COVID projects.
Right.
I was like, everybody's home on Sunday morning. Let's do Sunday morning at the piano.
Quarantunes.
Like,
It was a quarantine.
Yeah, quarantine. I like that.
Yeah,
I know you
do.
do.
Oh, that's good.
gonna
Professor
steal
Geisinger
that.
and I know we already coined it.
Oh, that's a good one. Did you trademark that?
Not yet, but it's on camera right now.
It's like, yeah, quarantine. That was
right.
good.
I like
know,
that,
I know.
yeah.
Well, we did that, and what was amazing about the album was the authenticity of this is the first thing and the only thing that was coming out. So I'm just calling the song. All right, let's play this, and we just play, and he said, "How you want to start?" I don't know. I would just start playing. And if you listen to the record, the first song we played was an old church song. If it had not been for the Lord on our side,
Tell me, where would I be?
where would I be? But at the end, we started laughing. Because whatever just happened in this moment was so authentic for both of us.
Right.
It's hard to catch those moments. Because then when you do it the second time, it like Ruth just said, it alters. It's not as authentic. And then when you do it the third time, it's not as authentic. Then the fourth time. And there have been so many artists that I work with in the studio. Usually the older ones, like, you got to catch them the first time. Yeah, because that whole keep doing it over,
forget that.
it progressively. There's one singer that I will mention, I'm going to say her by name, that I've worked with, who she got better and better the more she did it after even 1,000 takes, which was Tamala Mann.
Wow.
Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe
She's
it.
amazing.
I was sitting there.
It's hard for her to get better
It was-
after
it was
first take.
incredible.
I can't imagine her better.
The first one was like, oh, how was that? I was like, oh, that was great. Oh, no, I need to do it again. All right. But then when we would take like 215, I'm like, this is great. She was like, I got one more, I can get it better. But it was progressively, it just got better every time.
Wow.
And I have never experienced that like that. She's might be one that I can count on my hand. I don't know too many people that I've been in the studio like that.
Wow.
I like to just get it done.
Yeah.
Just get it done. So I was watching, there's a series on PBS right now, American Masters, and the one on Roberta Flack, she's one of my all-time favorite artists. But literally, she had a very popular project called First Take, and literally she did every song in First Take. Right,
Yeah.
like that's how she said she went into every session, and all the producers that work with her said she killed everything first take.
That's crazy.
And her stuff is amazing, right? Like her
Yeah.
stuff is amazing. So yeah.
So that's authenticity is in
Yeah.
that first take.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
the purity of your conversation, of your communication. Yeah, I wanted to say this. This is why I'm sure you know this about being in the studio. You have to work with engineers that are always recording, because even when you're doing a rehearsal take, it'll get so good, and that really will be the one
Right.
that when now let's record it,
Right.
and then it's like now you're thinking about it, you're trying to like really put it together. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Where when you just have a natural conversation, we just flow. Like if we were scripted right now, this conversation would be so dry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Right. Right.
Well, Jamar, I really do.
Yeah. Like yes, Ruth.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But we will not be dry.
No,
Not at all. So, both of you, where do you see music in the next 10 years? Like, what trends, what new developments, what changes? Where do you see it in the next 10 years? And the reason why we say the next 10 and not the next 20 or 30 is because of technology and AI, which has sped up change, in our generation, this generation, in a way that we've not seen before. It's Jetsons, right? Speed up. I know the audience probably don't know what I'm talking about when I say the Jetsons. Y'all Google it. But it's sped it up so quickly. So in the next 10 years, as rapidly as we're seeing things change, where do you all see music in the industry?
I'm going to answer it this way. In a lot of ways, I miss Miles Davis every day.
Wow.
I didn't love all his albums, but what I utterly loved about him was that he kept pushing the music forward. And I would say, what would he be doing today? What collaboration would he be making with the artists today? Not in jazz necessarily, classical, hip hop, acid rock. What would he be doing with all these things? And so I hope, and I've been an educator for over 20 years, K through 12, and then university for over 15 years. So K through university, which could be confusing at times. But I remember my kindergarten when I was teaching at the university in here, I was like, don't forget your assignment. They're like, what's an assignment? I was like, your homework.
Kindergarten. They start crying. Don't do that.
Right.
Destroy
But
them.
and I see it, and this is why in a lot of ways social media is helpful, because I can have access to them. I see artists that have that spirit of creativity, that they're interested in. I was just talking to an amazing student at Temple University where I teach in the jazz department, pianist, and he was saying, I love straight ahead jazz, but I also am interested in this, and I'm interested in doing some stuff with Bilal. I'm interested in doing some stuff with other people, and I'm interested in this classical opera singer who's doing some dope things with their voice. So that's where I hope music is that that creativity continues, and that we keep bringing up, even if it's new genres or new different, but even without the labels, right? That this creativity, that we keep pushing it forward, and that the purity, which we've been talking about, is still there, that authenticity is there. And when you look at the history of American music, and you look where it began, the root of it came at a cost. And so there's a soberness to it, that cost was blood, and it was blood of enslaved Africans in America. And so those spirituals to blues to gospel to rock and roll, and it goes on and on and on. The architect of that came with blood, and I'm not saying that's where we need to have for the new music to go, but I hope that soberness is there. I hope that's there.
That's a
this
good point.
Seriousness of solemnness of this music that whether you believe in God or higher power, for me, that God granted and placed in my soul and in my being, that there's a soberness of going to create, and that the universe and that the world is full of so much creativity. And then the last thing, that we will continue to search for beauty, even in the hard music, even in the grittiness, because there's so much beauty that is surrounding or in the midst of music that may not sound beauty. So I remember my parents saying, that doesn't sound pretty, that doesn't sound good. And you really need to listen. So that's why, and I'll say this, you're younger, darling. But for me, when I wanted to hear a new album, I had to pray that it was at the library, because I couldn't afford to buy it.
Wow.
I had to pray no one took it out, and I prayed that whoever had it last didn't scratch the
Right,
vinyl.
That's right.
And so I would sometimes have to wait up to 4 months or 3 months for, and then 3rd Street, the guy we worked out, 3rd Street, remember 3rd
Yeah.
Street? We work out, or it's 8th Street. 8th Street?
Eighth Street
Eighth Street
Music.
Music,
Eighth
yeah.
Street Music, yep.
Sorry,
Yeah.
8th Street
Yeah.
Music.
Yes.
We work out a deal. All right, Ruth, I'll help you out. But that sense of what is the next generation going to create? And I think we're in good hands. They're not, on the Grammys, and they're not, in the top 20 artists in the world, but they are really creative, beautiful souls, creating just stunning music with collaboration. That's really powerful.
Wow.
And so I hope that remains.
Yeah.
And that we tell the truth. That we tell the truth.
I think in the next 10 years, the truth of experience will remain to be the vehicle through which music will be communicated. So what that means is, in every era, there's an experience. We talked about the Negro spirituals.
Yeah.
There's civil rights movement. In 70s, there's like that awakening. You got the hippie thing going on, and you saw that kind of flourish out through all music. We got hip hop, the truth of experience. Right now, I think, Dr. Dave, I think we would understand this as Dave, the psychologist, that we're in a challenging time right now for mental health
Yes.
and mental well-being.
Yes.
And I think music is going to be the tool for communicating that type of challenge.
And it always has been.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
But younger people, see, because before, younger people weren't the vehicle for it.
Correct.
That's now, I think that's what we see. So everybody's like not just into their feelings, but needing an outlet to communicate, these complex feelings at such a young age. And because we have so many things going on, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole in terms of how our children are being traumatized in society, but nevertheless, once you look at music as that vehicle, then okay, I can communicate a level of emotion that I need to really get out, and this becomes that vehicle. And then you look at the technology kind of helps to do that. And then I'm gonna take this, because then I was thinking when you said 10 years from now, well, I had the opportunity to, Adam, we did Soul Train, not this past year, but maybe 2 years ago, Soul Train at the Apollo, the Soul Train Awards, and Lucky Day, he sampled Half Crazy. And I played on the original Half Crazy, right? This is real important. I'm playing on stage with an artist that sampled a song that I played on.
Right.
And I looked at Adam, I said, yo, we're old now.
Yeah, y'all old.
Like,
Doing Adam old.
I'm like, that's officially old.
Y'all
Like,
old.
I'm like, I'm
Not
playing to me. Like, it's weird. It's like weird, right? But with that in
Did
mind,
Lucky Day know that?
well, I told him.
You told him. Right. Yeah, I'm about to say.
I was like, yeah, I played on the original
Right.
record, right? This is just an interesting
He should have asked you for
dynamic.
your autograph then.
Hey, yeah, you're you because of me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm just like, no.
I made you.
But with that in mind, I think what's significant about that is when you think about in 10 years,
Yep.
they're going to be listening to Nicki Minaj and Meek Mill.
Ah, that's crazy.
Ain't that? You got to put that thing in context. In Dreams and Nightmares, as I'm talking about giving voice to this whole emotion, the emotional movement, and I think the sound of, music in and of itself is an oxymoron, is emotional. So if you listen to film music is emotional. It articulates emotion. All music gives the regular listener a voice, and it gives their emotions context and a voice, right? So you listen to Stevie Wonder, I can't sing like him, but these 3 words, oh man, great. You know what I mean?
Right.
And all of that kind of stuff. But what is going to happen for this new generation is a different type of emotional communication that I think that's going to kind of take where the whole entire world, So remember, U2 did We Didn't Start the Fire?
Yes.
Yeah, right? It's like the 80s, was it late 80s?
That was late 80s, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't start the fire. So it's politics. Let's think about where we are. You got the Reagan era, like it was giving this whole voice to like this whole world that was just in a different place. Now we're in the places and the things, we're going around the circle, but then it's like we capture a new thing as we go around every time. So, we probably got all of that coming back again.
Yeah. there's nothing new under the sun. You know it comes back.
Nothing,
Yeah.
man. Comes right back. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to take a few questions from our live studio audience.
We're on live studio
the live
audience.
studio audience. So if you have a question, please go to the mic, say your name, GPA. No, not your GPA. You don't have to say GPA. Just say your name. Ask your question. You can address it to either or both of our guests today.
I'll go first.
Please. Thank you, sir.
Break the ice. So my name is Zaire. Can you hear me good? I'm good. All right. So I do have a few questions, but I guess I ask this for both of you since you love jazz. So I want to know, where can you see jazz going in the future? Because you see like how hip hop came and they got rap, hardcore rap, and mumble rap, and country, and you got what is it, like classic rock. Can you see jazz like blending and making new subgenres of jazz?
That's deep.
That is a deep
You must be a
question.
4.0. That's a high GPA right there.
I should be.
I'm gonna shock her with my answer, but I think she should answer first. Or-
I think there already are. I don't know that they put labels on them, but you see jazz artists working with different genres and collaborations. Jazz is really a conversation. And so a melodic line is introduced and everyone in the ensemble gets a chance to accompany that melody, but then they get a chance to tell how they feel. And so you see the art of that conversation and of jazz being collaborated in classical music. You see it, and even more now than ever, and I'm so grateful for that there's finally an opening. It happened before, but there's a more openness to that. And so you see it working with string quartets, you see it with a jazz artist collaborating with a rock artist. So I think it's not necessarily like official subgenres with names, and there are some. But I think it really is about improvisation, right? And so I think what's happening is that music is becoming more improvisational, and when that happens, then you think it has that sense of jazz. But yeah, I think there's going to be more collaborations. There's a sense of let's all get together and do our thing and see how it sounds and how people respond to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was great.
I think jazz is in trouble.
Okay.
And the reason I think so is because of what has happened and occurred in K through 8 music education. There was a level of music education that we got in first grade, second grade, and third grade that our children don't get now. And I know this because I am a pastor at church.
Okay.
People can't sing on pitch. This is very true.
My son must go to your church because he can't sing at all.
But you can.
Yeah, but you can. Well, he says he was educated when we was,
Yeah.
40 years ago. But
Right.
no, what that really means, so let me give you some high-level information. Dr. Diane Lang is, she's a music education researcher at the University of Texas at Arlington. She's actually a disciple, if you will, a student of Dr. Edwin Gordon, who was a professor of music at Temple University. And Edwin Gordon kind of authored all of the research on audiation, musical audiation. Audiation is to music what speech is to thought. Right.
Right.
All right. Dr. Lang taught me this when I was in graduate school. It's a very important fact. She said that a male, particularly, if he has not started to vocalize before his voice drops, he will never be able to stay on key. She said as a medical fact.
Right.
Wow.
So I was like,
Wow.
really? She's like, yeah. And that led us to have this deeper discussion about why singing in church is so horrible. Because forget church. Go to the ball game. If you listen to a bunch of people try to sing the Star Spangled Banner, there was a day when we were younger where everybody could at least stay on pitch.
We was harmonizing and everything.
Yeah.
3-part
But-
harmony on the Star Spangled Banner.
When we were in first grade and second grade, they were singing in class, even in your general ed music class.
That's true.
First, second, third, fourth. You know, I went to Shelmont Elementary School, so we were in 5th and 6th grade chorus. Everybody had to be in it. 7th and 8th grade chorus. Everybody had to be in it. You know, and because of that, so like our musical thinking and musical thought has been degraded to a degree, and there's not as much interest, or there's not the vehicle to stimulate the interest in jazz.
Okay.
You get that's why I say it's in trouble from what I see at a large. Now, I have kids. My kids have what we would call high musical aptitude, but they don't listen to jazz. They listen to me. They'll listen to me, but they won't like put on a John Coltrane record. Or if John Coltrane comes on, oh yeah, this is like that dinner music. I'm like, no, this is John Coltrane. Like, yeah, this sound like that. Or I did a version of Blackbird by the Beatles on one of my records, and my daughter said, "Yeah, I heard this on Glee." And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, but this is the Beatles.
Right.
Well, who's that? I'm like, then I was like, all right, I put on the Beatles. This is boring. Like, you know, you understand, you see what happened? So, like, you know, that's just that. So
I would say that jazz has been in trouble since its inception, though.
Well,
You know,
that means
because
all
it was
music,
birthed.
though.
It was birthed in protest, right?
that's
And
true.
so, it's
Yeah.
particularly the straight ahead jazz, that has that. You know that
rub against the-
well, let's just go there. That negroidal sound, right? That blackness, because it was birthed in protest, right?
I never
And so
heard that
it's-
word
it's
before.
been-
I love it.
What?
I love it.
Sorry.
I'm gonna use
You
it.
know me.
I love it. Negroidal. I love it.
And that doesn't mean my other brothers and sisters who are of other hue can't play it, but I'm
Correct.
saying that the where it was birthed in. And so it's because of
Yep.
that, it's still in trouble. So, I mean, and it'll remain in struggle. It's survived. I think it will. I think it'll be like, you know, what my degree's in photography, right? So I remember, this is too quick, I remember saying, oh no, digital's coming and the film's going to be lost in the darkroom. So across the nation, universities started closing up darkrooms. By the way, CCP
still have
in the
one.
They still got a
90s
darkroom?
were rated number 2 in the nation because of the gentleman who donated and started that photography. So those who are in photography,
That's
I mean,
right.
you have a long history that's illustrious of photography. But I remember, and I went to the Photoshop and said, I need to buy a couple bricks of film because, he said they're going to be discontinued. Everything's going to go digital. Wow, the young people discovered film after the digital.
That's a good point.
And brought it back.
I see what you're saying.
Same thing with CDs
I
and
see what you're
MP3s.
saying. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened? I was
Yeah.
like vinyls. I was kind of happy because I was able to get the vinyls for cheap, right? And then what happened? The young people were like, "Nah, we need that vinyl back." And so now, you know, it's so. I think that's what has happened. It dies down, but
And
it
it comes
doesn't
back.
die, but it comes back.
That's a good point.
You know, and then you have the sampling of John Coltrane and some of the underground rap now that are infusing those monks and birds. So I think as long as we're in trouble, we'll survive, if that makes sense.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was good.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
So, well,
that
y'all
what they
gave
do?
like 2, like,
Did we answer your question?
no, y'all did,
know.
but y'all answered it perfectly because I wanted to know, like, did any of you think jazz was probably going to end up like classical music or something I would just call less listened to than it was when, you know, it was at its height or whatever? Because it seemed like a lot of other stuff is evolving and sticking around, you know, like I don't think country going anywhere anytime soon or R&B, you know.
Well, country music has evolved.
Right.
It's all evolved. yeah.
Everything is evolved.
As
I
R&B,
think
right.
jazz is the new classical music. That's what I think.
Well, it's always
And
been,
It's
I
always
think,
been America's
America's
classical
classical
music. But you're
music.
right.
It's
You're
America's
right. Yeah.
because classical music is really, for the orchestra, is
European,
European
yeah.
classical
Right.
Yeah,
music. Yeah.
My, as a music industry studies professor, my goal in the academy was to have everybody just study jazz as foundational core music, as opposed to classical. We get classical theory as foundational core music in most collegiate programs. However, if you're doing contemporary music, you're coming to school to study contemporary music, whether that's because jazz here in America, America's classical music gives way to, you know, gospel, rock, pop, R&B. It goes on and on. All of those are subgenres of jazz
Yep.
music. You know what I mean? So, like, if you study jazz theory, there are a lot of things in jazz theory that are better for you to understand than
man.
like figure bass. That's a classical music thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's ever using figure bass anywhere. So like just for you to get the basic mechanics and get musical literacy and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's high level, but yeah.
Well, I'll let other people get to their questions because I feel like I sucked a lot of time up.
But it was good. It was a good suck up. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. Come on up, sir. Say your name, please.
Hello, my name is Jason Rose. My question is for Ms. Floyd. It was mentioned in the introduction that you were the Spring Garden Records artist in residence, and I was curious what that means. What do you do in that role?
Commercial.
That's good.
Well,
Go for it.
Well, I mean, I guess I would say, Dr. Thomas, and that it's a combination of being both Community College of Philadelphia's artist in residence and then Spring Gardens artist in residence. For Community College of artist in residence, we've been doing master classes. I've done a lecture with Q&A, and then also we've done some workshops and things like that. And then participated in a faculty student, which was amazing. I love that, where the students were singing along with the faculty. It was beautiful, stunning. As the Spring Gardens Records artist in residence, I will be recording with my quartet a body of work based on Octavius V. Catto, who was one of the city of Philadelphia's early African-American martyrs. He was fighting for voting rights. He was an educator, athlete, and everything in that sense, so multi-gifted, and he was shot while he was fighting for blacks to be able to vote. Sounds familiar.
Right.
How many hundreds of years later? And so it's the first statue of an African-American in Philadelphia is of Octavius Catto. So we're recording that with our quartet, Matthew Parrish on double bass, Mark Prince on drums, Gary Thomas on tenor saxophone, and Brian Carrot on vibraphone and me singing. So I've composed a body of work on the life of that. And that's what I've really have done the past several years, I think, as artists, as you know, is to respond to what's going on in the day. So when archaeologists wanted to know what was going on in Rome, they looked to the arts, right? And so for me as a justice worker who's been involved in incarceration, the unhoused, hunger, trans, HIV, AIDS work, all of that for 30 years, for me, it was very important what I was doing. What was I doing when I wasn't in front of a microphone, when I wasn't going, how can I help community in other ways? And I really thank my parents for that. And so for me, when I saw this thing of history under attack, I said another way to get the history is through music. And so I've done Frederick Douglass Jazz Works. I've done a suite on Watkins Harper, and I did a 3-song cycle on Marian Anderson for cello and voice, and now I'm doing a Catto with Spring Garden Records. So I'm really excited. And then it also ties in because of the profoundly brilliant program of the Catto Scholars, which
Catto Scholarship,
that just really deeply touches me. And then we're still trying to work out with my 10 years running out, but of having artists in residence where you would come and have that I'm here for to talk with any students that have office hours, so that people can just come in and just talk about anything. It doesn't even have to be artistic or music, just that there's another ear here. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? We look like, hey, there you go. Name, sir?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeremiah. And earlier you stated that, like, there's a need for a constant push of content. Like, before, you could, like, take your time with songs and, like, make albums, basically. But now that the algorithms and stuff are in play, it's more like singles. They want you to pump out singles after singles. So my question was, I actually had 2 questions, but I'm going to answer like the second one. I'll ask the second one first. How do you finish songs? And I guess they're both one. How do you finish songs, and do you have to rush in this day and age, basically?
Is it Shakespeare, to thine own self be true? Is that Shakespeare?
Probably.
Or did I just
I'm
make
smart,
that up?
but I ain't that smart.
Okay.
I cut that
Shakespeare?
class.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay.
Or Dr. Seuss. One of them.
Or Dr. Seuss. Or Barack Obama. I don't know. Oh, to thine own self be true. I think when you are okay with it, then it's okay. I don't believe in caving to, popular opinion. And just because a system or a group of people say that you must do something, you gotta live. Like we were talking about Prince earlier. I abide by this. Live by your own rule. All right, that's number one. Two, yes, it is a business. The business has dynamics. So what that means is you have to study the business dynamics, so that way you know where in the business timeline or if things have changed. So that's the one nuance that is difficult for a lot of people, and myself included, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this 6 months down the road. It'll be a completely different world, framework, distribution system. Now, before it was just TuneCore and probably CD Baby. Like, I used to hate that name too, CD Baby.
Me too.
Yeah,
Never
CD
understood
Baby.
it.
But now you have like a whole host of music distribution options, digital options, and and then there's social media and engagement and how that algorithm stuff plays into all of that, So yeah, you have to do some research. But when it comes to your own creativity, sometimes it comes out fast, sometimes it comes out slow. As long as to thine own self be true. Because guess what? I think people get mental disease quicker when they do something for someone else. And because it's based on someone else's opinion or this is what they wanted. And especially as a performing artist, like none of us want to go out and have to perform songs that we don't like.
Right.
I'm lucky because I only been an independent. Well, I'm on Patti LaBelle's record label, I guess, but I'm kind of independent. And I produced music that was comfortable for me. Like, and I had this I don't care. So, like, there's a thing called the DGAF. Anybody know what DGAF is? Don't give a.
Oh.
Don't give a here.
Right.
That's the way you said it. I'm like, what is that? Like an instrument? I don't
Right. Yeah, kind of.
It's a vehicle.
Right. It is a vehicle. Right.
But DGAF is basically what you want to. I think that's the way you have to. A star has DGAF. A person that is really comfortable with this is what I want to say, this is how I want to say it, and this is how I want to do it. And I'm not saying you be vulgar about it. It's just like, no. It's just like, no. I want to do jazz. Yeah. I want to do classical. I want to do R&B. I want to do pop. I want to do gospel. Whatever it is, just to your own self be true. And don't adopt somebody else's voice. I didn't mean to turn this into a motivational speech, but this is like the most important thing. Because as soon as you try to put on somebody else's armor or put on somebody else's voice, then you'll find out, you've kind of gotten removed from your authenticity. A professor of mine used to tell me that I always played behind the beat. I'll never forget this. He said, man, you got to play on the beat. And I was just like, I do? But you know what? I recognize the older I got, part of the reason, it's just the way I communicate. This is the way I want to communicate, though. I'm comfortable communicating this way. Like, so I had the opportunity to play at the Kennedy Center, and I played Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin. This was like, it's going to be incredibly smart or incredibly stupid. Like, I sat down at the Steinway at the Kennedy Center without an orchestra.
I know this. Yep.
And I played Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin. But this is the thing. I actually played it with my own spin. I got a standing ovation that lasted for 3 minutes. This is the thing. And I was just like, you know what? This is the way I wanted to play it, though. I wanted to give it my own voice, my own context, my own texture. I wanted to be birthed out of whatever pain I had and emotion that I had. And I was able to do that. That would have been a no-no when I was in grade school.
Right.
They was like, what are you doing? Like, no. But no. But to thine own self be true. All right, so Hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, yep.
Wow. That's solid. That courageous authenticity that you just mentioned, right, very often can change the industry
That's
if
very-
you lead with it, right? So the industry and the artist's authenticity are not separate from each other, right? That they influence one another, right?
Very
Yeah.
true.
You know, the reason why I think we have AI and digitization is because those artists, those tech artists who were creating those things, didn't apologize for those things. They said, no, this is the way to do it. And now look, you have an industry that is birthed around someone's courageous authenticity in the tech field. We should encourage our artists to do the same thing,
Agreed.
right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
good.
This
good.
is a motivational speech. Sorry about that, y'all. Wow. So if we have no more questions in the audience.
Actually.
Yes, sir. Come on. There you go.
I
Say your
didn't know-
GPA due,
I
sir.
didn't know if non-students were able to speak. So thank you for the invite. This was amazing. My name is Rob. I have a question regarding the 10 years that you talked about where you saw the music industry. We're seeing an influx of catalog purchases. People buying catalogs. They're private equity firms. Should we be concerned about what the intentions are for these companies that are buying these catalogs and what they want to do with this work of art, our music, other people's music 10, 15, 20 years from now? Should there be a moral obligation connected to purchases of catalogs? And what advice, if any, would you give to young songwriters who are working on building and developing a catalog? I'll sit down. Thanks.
For real, Rob, you gonna do it like that?
Right. You know what I mean?
Mic drop.
The catalog issue really has everything to do with music serves as a tool and a reminder of people. You know, and this is interesting. So let's follow the train of thought. The equity fund has to increase shareholder wealth, number one. So they're not going to make any decision that is outside of making $1 or spending $1 and making it bring back 10 or 100. So they see that we can make money with these catalogs. Why can they make money with the catalogs? Because nostalgia is how music survives. Right? It's nostalgia. So I started talking about we didn't start the fire. So if you were about anywhere between 10 and 20 years old when that record was hot, well, then that means it'll resonate with you. All right, you're gonna see that come back up at some point in time for that group of people, right? So that means you were born somewhere roughly between 1967 and 1977, right? So that means now you're roughly between the ages of 45 and 55. All right, what do 45 to 55 have? Purchasing power. So those catalogs will serve advertising and marketing, who those companies will then have to purchase that, license that. That's how they make the money. You see, so you follow the money. What you want to do, if you really just want to have this amazing career, is because I've had the opportunity to have a couple of those hit records or whatever. And the one thing that you didn't learn, or that nobody told you, is that you make money, and then that money just disappears. That's the way it goes. But then over time, you start to see things pick
Come
back up.
Yeah.
It's the way you see it pick back up is like the oddest thing. You know, so I didn't write Half Crazy. I think that was Carvin and I did Half Crazy, but I'm Lucky Day, Half Crazy. That song is 20 years old. So somebody's gonna be sampling Jill Scott, and somebody's gonna be sampling this person, and then they're gonna be sampling that person, and you know, it'll be a sample, and the catalog people see it as a way of making money. In terms of us, I think if your focus as an artist has to be, well, when it comes to the commercialization of music, you got to figure out how to tap into what people are feeling. You know, all artists, whether you're a music artist, a literary artist, a graphic artist, painting, you know, if the people that do well and will do well are those that can tap into what everybody is feeling. You know, there's a name that I can't say,
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at me, I ain't
You
gonna
don't
give it okay to say it.
Okay. He's on camera. There's a writer, who was in jail, who's from Chicago.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it.
Yeah. So, and the reason I say that is because he had the ability to tap into the emotion of a lot of people. He's a gifted writer. I'm not talking about him as a person, like probably a terrible person, obviously now. But when you look at that, that's what you want to figure out. Where is that for you, and whatever you do, right? So I'm like a little jazz artist. I did a record called Fatherless Child. Fatherless Child is my musical biography, right? I'm taking jazz music, well, really all kinds of music that I grew up on, to communicate a story. What was interesting about the album, the Fatherless Child album, is when it came out, I was on iTunes. The day it came out, it was the #2 jazz record. Then I think eventually went to #1, then it fell off because Rob Glasper took over. But with that in mind, it trended high among males between the ages of 25 and 35. Now, I want you to think about that. A jazz album was popular among males between 25 and 35. That was an anomaly. It was more the subject area and the emotion of the subject that resonated, and that was my record. And I still, to this day, a lady called me from a radio station in Huntsville, Alabama, because I did a song "Searching for Answers" with Montel Jordan, and she said, "Man, we play your song at least 5 times. We just keep it in rotation. A week, though." Like a week, so the whatever $5 I get from that, like, it might. I know where it's coming from, But she said because the listeners call in and they say, "Man, that it just resonates with me." You understand what I'm saying? So I created something. Now all you got to really, really figure out is then, well, how do we get economy of scale out of this, opportunity? So economy of scale is, I'm able to make $5. I believe this: if you can make $5, that means you can make $500,000. You just got to figure out how to get there, and then that's how you build your own catalog. You keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you don't stop. You don't wait for people to give you approval, or you don't wait for people to say they like it. You just keep doing what you do, and that's all. And I believe, there are many people that started off doing something. You know what? This is what I'm gonna do. Like, if you've seen a Kanye West documentary, can we still say his name?
I think we can still say his name.
Okay, yeah. All right. You
Today.
seen today the Kanye West documentary? He was hell bent on being an MC. Nobody wanted to listen to him though. And what was inspiring about that is, and my daughter had to point this out to me, what was inspiring about that is he wouldn't take no for an answer for himself though. It wasn't about everybody else. And like, for him to be in a room and trying to play a song for somebody and they just ignoring him. Like, imagine that. But that's, if you dial yourself in that way, like, I'm gonna just keep doing it. I don't care what nobody say. Like, guess what? Ain't nobody listening to me. It don't even matter. Like, I'm gonna just keep doing it. Like, you're gonna look crazy, you're gonna look foolish, but guess what? I can guarantee in the end, you'll be the one laughing.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, own and control your own music.
Well, yeah.
So there's no catalogs to be bought. And then I'm not going to conspiracy theory, but I said to, when you were asking the question, I said, listen, you might be taken out in order to get your catalog. You look at the superstar musicians and you look at their date of death and their sale of their catalog. And so there's a lot of money there. I mean, we all know the story what happened when a certain pop star said something derogatory about Michael Jackson. Did he go to People magazine? Did he go and respond? The next day he bought the guy's catalog. So every time he sang a song, he's a mega star. Every time he sang a song, cha-ching, in Michael Jackson's account. So I would say own and control your music. That's where independent artist is. So you own and control when you want to sell your catalog. And then also, you know, just look and see the power of that and see the parlay of that money. What has happened to artists that have refused to sell their catalog? Just look at where they, what happens to them. Yeah.
Wow.
She done went zero dark 30 on that.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
deep stuff. But this was a phenomenal exchange today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Definitely want to thank our guests and family, Ruth Naomi Floyd,
Yes, thank
Mr.
you.
Jamar Jones, my friends and
I'm
colleagues.
going to be the next artist in residence.
That's right. He has to apply. Okay. But we got it. I want to thank our studio audience today. Thank you very much for coming out. I also want to thank our viewers at YouTube TV, because hopefully you all are watching on YouTube as well too, and CCP TV. So next time, see you on our next Music Industry Today session. We have no idea who it will be, but stay tuned.
But when will it be?
I don't know that either, but stay tuned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.